Family betrayal started when the word struck me like a physical blow, echoing through the polished marble of the bank lobby. She's not mentally competent anymore, my daughter in law's voice carried from behind the frosted glass door. She forgets things constantly. It's getting dangerous for her to manage her own money. My hand clutched my worn leather purse so tightly my fingers ached. I stood frozen between the ATM machines, hidden from view but close enough to hear every treacherous word. Simone, my son's wife of 15 years, was telling the bank manager I was losing my mind. Blood rushed in my ears. At 72 years old, I've weathered many storms, burying my beloved husband, Leonard, raising our only son alone, building a catering business from nothing but determination and my grandmother's recipes. But nothing prepared me for this betrayal. We're just concerned about protecting her assets, Simone continued, her voice dripping with false concern. 40 years of savings shouldn't be wasted because she can't remember what day it is. 40 years. Every dollar saved from Leonard's postal service checks, every tip from my catering clients, every sacrifice we made so our son could have opportunities we never had. All of it, now a target. I stepped backward, my sensible shoes silent on the carpeted floor. My mind raced through the past few months, the missing bank statements, the casual questions about my will, Simone's sudden interest in helping with my finances after my minor fall in the garden. It wasn't concern, it was calculation. The branch manager's voice drifted to the door. Mrs. Monroe would need to be declared legally incompetent before any changes. We're working on that, Simone cut in. Her doctor agrees there's significant decline. Another lie. Dr. Patterson had just given me a clean bill of health last month, praising my sharp mind and active lifestyle. I slipped out of the bank, heart hammering against my ribs. The bright sunlight outside felt wrong against the darkness unfurling inside me. I settled on a bench, my legs suddenly too weak to carry me to my car. What would I do now? Confront them immediately? Tell my son? Would Derek even believe me over the woman he adored? And if I waited, how far would Simone go to get her hands on my money? For the first time since Leonard passed, I felt truly alone. But somewhere beneath the shock, a familiar feeling stirred. The same quiet determination that had carried me through raising a son alone, building a catering business from nothing but determination and my grandmother's recipes. I took a deep breath and straightened my spine. Simone thought my age made me vulnerable. She was about to learn that these 72 years hadn't made me weaker, they'd made me wiser. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments. I want to know how far this story travels. Also, download your ebook titled Suspense and Thriller Stories by clicking the link in the pinned comment. Now, to understand why Simone's betrayal cut so deep, you need to know about our history. My red brick house on Maplewood Street isn't just a building. It's the foundation of everything I've built. My red brick house on Maplewood Street isn't just a building. It's the foundation of everything I've built. Leonard and I purchased it 43 years ago when it was nothing but peeling paint and creaky floors. We transformed it with our own hands, weekend by weekend, until it became the warm home where we raised Derek. Simone entered our lives like a summer storm, sudden and overwhelming. Derek brought her to Sunday dinner 20 years ago, his eyes shining with the kind of love that blinds. She arrived with a designer handbag and a smile that never quite reached her cold eyes. "What a charming little house," she'd said, running manicured fingers along my handmade curtains. "So quaint." I remember how Leonard squeezed my hand under the table, a silent warning to be patient. "Give her time," he'd whisper later that night. "She makes our boy happy." For Derek's sake, I tried. Lord knows I tried. When they married, I helped cater their lavish wedding, despite Simone's complaints that my food was too home-style for her sophisticated friends. When they had my grandbabies, sweet Malik and Tiana, I babysat for free while Simone climbed her real estate career ladder. The comments started small, harmless if you didn't know to look deeper. "Mama Althea, this neighborhood is getting so run down. "Wouldn't you be happier in one of those senior communities?" she'd ask while helping herself to my homemade sweet potato pie. Or she'd pick up a family photograph and sigh dramatically. "All these memories, but this big house must be exhausting for you to clean." After Leonard passed 8 years ago, the comments grew bolder. I'd catch her opening my mail, peeking at bank statements left on my counter. "Just helping organize," she'd say with that tight smile. Then came the fall in my garden. A simple accident. My foot caught on an exposed root while tending my prize roses. The pain shot through my ankle like lightning, and I called Derek for help. They arrived 30 minutes later, Simone wearing full makeup and heels as if my twisted ankle was a social event. She insisted on taking me to the emergency room despite my protests. "Better safe than sorry at your age," she said, emphasizing those last two words like a diagnosis. The doctor was kind, but patronizing. "Maybe add a trusted family member to your accounts," he suggested, "just as a precaution." I noticed how Simone's posture changed, straightening with interest, suddenly alert. Her eyes gleamed with something that turned my stomach cold. "We'd be happy to help, wouldn't we, honey?" she said, touching Derek's arm. 2 weeks later, my bank statement stopped arriving in the mail. At first, I thought nothing of it. Mail gets delayed, carriers change routes. But when the second month statement didn't arrive, alarm bells ring in my mind. I called the bank directly. "We've been sending them to the same address as always, Mrs. Monroe, but I can see someone recently requested electronic statements instead of paper." I never made such a request. Never. "Who authorized this change?" I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. "It was processed in branch by—" A pause. "Simone Monroe. She showed ID as your daughter-in-law." Have you ever had that moment when puzzle pieces suddenly click into place? When scattered incidents form a pattern you should have seen all along? If you're nodding right now, tell me in the comments, what was your wake-up call that someone close to you couldn't be trusted? The bank representative's words confirmed what my instincts had been whispering for years. Simone wasn't just nosy, she was dangerous. I thanked the woman and hung up, my hand trembling. That's when I decided to visit my bank in person. Not my usual branch where everyone knew me, but the downtown location where Simone had been making changes to my account. Which brings me back to that terrible morning. Hidden behind a decorative ficus plant, I heard every word of Simone's betrayal. "Mrs. Monroe frequently misplaces important documents," she told the branch manager with practiced concern. "Last week, she called me crying because she couldn't find her checkbook. It was in the freezer." Another lie. I've never put anything in the freezer except food and the occasional vodka bottle when company's coming. "Her doctor agrees it's time for intervention," Simone continued smoothly. "We're in the process of filing for legal guardianship, but in the meantime, we need to protect her assets before she makes a catastrophic financial mistake." The branch manager sounded hesitant. "We have strict protocols for these situations. There's documentation required." "Of course," Simone interrupted. "We're gathering everything now, but considering her substantial accounts, I thought it prudent to alert you early. If she comes in wanting to withdraw large sums or make unusual transactions." My substantial accounts. That's what this was about. Not concern for my well-being, but the nest egg Leonard and I had carefully built over decades. Money that was meant for my security, for the grandchildren's education, not for Simone's luxury car payments or her flashy real estate office downtown. I slipped out undetected, my mind already planning my next steps. First, I called Henrietta Langford, not just my attorney, but a dear friend who had stood beside Leonard and me through every major life decision.
Her office scheduled me for that same afternoon. Bring every financial document you have. And Ms. Monroe, don't tell anyone about this appointment. I spent the next 2 hours gathering paperwork from my home safe: will, insurance policies, property deeds, and account statements. All the while, my phone kept lighting up with texts from Simone. Just checking on you, Mama Althea. Thinking of stopping by later with dinner. Found a great assisted living brochure I want to show you. The snake was circling, unaware her prey had grown wise. Henrietta didn't mince words after reviewing my documents. This is elder financial abuse, Althea, textbook case. We need to act immediately. By evening, we had a plan. I opened a new account at a credit union across town, transferring most of my funds. Henrietta drew up new power of attorney documents, naming her as my financial agent. We changed passwords, updated security questions, and placed fraud alerts on my accounts. "What about Derek?" I asked, my heart heavy. "My son." Henrietta's expression softened. "That's the hardest part, isn't it? Separating the manipulator from the manipulated." Did my own son know what his wife was plotting? Was he actively participating or another victim of her schemes? The thought of him betraying me made my chest ache with a pain worse than any physical ailment. I decided to find out. I texted them both, inviting them for Sunday dinner, my famous fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread, a meal Derek had loved since childhood. "Time to set the stage," I told Henrietta. "You are a braver woman than most," she replied. "Most people would confront them immediately." Confrontation is easy. Strategy takes patience, and if there is one thing these 72 years have given me, it's patience. As I prepared the meal that Sunday morning, laying out Grandma's china and polishing the silver, I wondered, how do you look into the eyes of someone who planned to steal your dignity along with your dollars? How do you sit across from your own flesh and blood, unsure if they've betrayed you? If you've ever had to hide your knowledge of betrayal, waiting for the right moment to act, drop a heart in the comments. That kind of pain needs witnesses.
Sunday dinner arrived with golden afternoon light streaming through my kitchen windows. The table was set with my best linens, the chicken perfectly fried, and my face composed into what my late mother called church mask, pleasant, revealing nothing. Derek arrived first, kissing my cheek and presenting a bouquet of store-bought flowers. "Looking good, Mama," he said, eyes skimming the spread. "You didn't need to go to all this trouble." "No trouble at all," I replied, noticing how he avoided direct eye contact. "Family time is precious." Simone swept in 10 minutes later in a cloud of expensive perfume, those predatory eyes quickly scanning my living room as if mentally cataloging assets. The grandchildren followed, 16-year-old Malik absorbed in his phone, 12-year-old Tiana immediately hugging me tight. "Grammy, I got an A on my history project about the civil rights movement. I used those stories you told me about when you were young." I held her close, inhaling her strawberry shampoo. "That's wonderful, baby. Your great-granddaddy would be so proud." Simone smiled tightened. "Tiana, don't squeeze Grammy too hard. She's delicate these days." And so it began. The subtle jabs, the exaggerated concern, the constant undermining. Throughout the meal, I played my role perfectly, slightly confused when asked complex questions, occasionally forgetting minor details, even purposely knocking over my water glass to watch Simone exchange knowing glances with Derek. "I've been thinking," I said as I served peach cobbler, my voice deliberately hesitant, "about what the doctor said after my fall, about my finances." Simone's paused midair. "Oh." Her tone casual, but her posture alert, a cat hearing a rustle in tall grass. "You two are right. I'm not getting any younger." I dabbed my mouth with a napkin. "I should put someone I trust on my accounts." That's wonderful, Mama.
Derek stammered, glancing at his wife. Simone's smile bloomed, triumphant. We'd be happy to help you with the paperwork. I can even drive you to the bank tomorrow. Oh, that won't be necessary, I replied gently. I've already spoken to the bank and my attorney. The cobbler suddenly seemed to stick in her throat. Attorney? Henrietta Langford. You've met her, Leonard's old friend. She's helping me update everything. My will, too. I smiled sweetly, just to make sure all my wishes are clear. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Simone's eyes narrowed slightly, calculating. That's thoughtful, but attorneys are expensive. We could have helped you for free. Some things are worth paying for, I said, meeting her gaze directly, like peace of mind. For the briefest moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face, but Simone had never underestimated her own abilities. Well, we're just glad you're thinking ahead, she recovered smoothly. That's all we want, for you to be taken care of. Little did she know that Henrietta had already moved most of my assets to accounts Simone couldn't access, that we documented every unauthorized attempt she made to access my information, that security cameras at the bank had recorded her false claims about my mental state. The battle lines were drawn, but only one of us knew war was declared. 3 days after that dinner, the official notice arrived by certified mail. Simone had filed legal papers to have me declared mentally incompetent. She was seeking full conservatorship over my person and property. The document felt heavy in my hands, its legal language cold and clinical. Significant cognitive decline, inability to manage financial affairs, vulnerable to exploitation. Each phrase a knife twisting deeper. Derek called almost immediately, his voice strained. Mama, it's not what you think. Is it not? Our voice was steady, despite the storm inside. Tell me what part I'm misunderstanding. The part where your wife wants to take control of everything I own, or the part where you're letting her? It's for your protection. My protection? The words tasted bitter. Is that what you call going behind my back? The court hearing's in 3 weeks, he said instead of answering. We just want what's best for you. I hung up without another word. Then I called Henrietta. I told her, they've made their move. Now we make ours. We had 21 days to prepare for battle, 21 days to prove that a 72-year-old woman still had the right to control her own life. If you're still with me in this fight, type dignity in the comments. Let's show the world that age doesn't determine your worth or your voice.
The county courthouse stood like a stone guardian, its marble steps worn smooth by decades of troubled feet seeking justice. I'd only been inside once before, when Leonard and I finalized Derek's adoption 45 years ago, a day of joy. This day promised no such happiness. I wore my navy blue suit, the one I saved for funerals and special occasions, pearl earrings Leonard had given me on our 30th anniversary, hair freshly done by Luann, who'd been styling it for 30 years. If they wanted to paint me as a confused old woman, I'd show them dignity incarnate. Henrietta met me at the entrance, briefcase in hand, silver hair pulled back severely. Ready? As I'll ever be, I replied, squeezing her arm. Inside, the courtroom smelled of lemon polish and anxiety. Wooden benches lined with people waiting their turn for justice. At the front, behind a heavy oak bench, Judge Gloria Wilson presided, a black woman perhaps 15 years my junior, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed documents. Simone and Derek sat at the table to the left with their attorney, a slick young man in an expensive suit. Simone wore cream-colored perfection, looking like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Derek looked uncomfortable, tugging at his collar, eyes darting around the room. They hadn't expected me to fight back, hadn't expected Henrietta with her 40 years of legal expertise, hadn't expected the witnesses waiting in the hallway. Case number 47382, in the matter of Althea Monroe, the clerk announced. Judge Wilson gazed at me over her glasses. Mrs. Monroe, these proceedings concern your capacity to manage your own affairs. Do you understand why you're here today? Perfectly, Your Honor. I'm here because my daughter-in-law wants control of my money and my son hasn't found the courage to stop her. Simone's attorney jumped up. Your Honor, such statements demonstrate the confusion and paranoia that necessitated this petition.
Judge Wilson silenced him with a look. "I'll determine what these proceedings demonstrate, counselor." For the next hour, their side presented their case. Doctor's notes taken out of context, banking mistakes I'd supposedly made, household accidents exaggerated into evidence of incompetence. Simone testified tearfully about finding me wandering confused in my nightgown, conveniently omitting I was in my own backyard picking herbs at sunset. Through it all, I sat straight-backed and still, letting the lies wash over me like dirty water, knowing truth would clean it away. When our turn came, Henrietta was magnificent. First, my regular physician testified that my recent complete physical showed no cognitive concerns whatsoever. Mrs. Monroe displays the normal mild forgetfulness consistent with her age group, nothing approaching incompetence, Dr. Landry stated firmly. Next came my banker of 20 years, who confirmed I'd never made a single financial error. My pastor spoke of my continued sharp contributions to church committee meetings. My neighbor described how I still help manage the community garden accounting. But the knockout punch came when Henrietta called her surprise witness, Thomas Collins, the branch manager from the downtown bank. "Mr. Collins, have you ever met Mrs. Simone Monroe before today?" He pointed directly at Simone. "Yes, several times at our branch." "And what was the purpose of those visits?" "She came trying to gain access to Mrs. Althea Monroe accounts, claiming her mother-in-law was mentally declining." "Did she provide proof of this alleged decline?" "No." "She claimed documentation was forthcoming but pressed us to place restrictions on the accounts immediately." Simone's face had gone from cream to ashen. Derek stared at her, something shifting in his expression. "Mr. Collins," Henrietta continued, "did Mrs. Althea Monroe ever authorize her daughter-in-law to access her accounts?" "No, ma'am. In fact, when Mrs. Althea Monroe came to our branch herself the following week, she was perfectly lucid and specifically instructed that her daughter-in-law should have no access." The courtroom hummed with tension. Simone whispered frantically to her attorney, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Then Henrietta played her final card, security footage from the bank, showing me conducting complex financial transactions with complete competence on the very day Simone had told the court I was too confused to function. Judge Wilson didn't need long to deliberate. Her voice rang with authority as she delivered her ruling. "This court finds no evidence supporting the petition for conservatorship. To the contrary, the evidence suggests this action was initiated in bad faith." She looked directly at Simone. "This petition is denied. Furthermore, Mrs. Monroe is granted a protective order preventing petitioners from making further attempts to control her finances." The gavel struck with a crack that echoed through the room. Victory tasted sweet, became with a bitter aftertaste, the realization that winning meant losing my relationship with my son as I had known it. Simone swept out without a word, face rigid with humiliation. Derek hesitated, caught between following his wife and approaching me. After a moment of indecision, he turned and walked away. I sat alone on the courthouse bench long after everyone had gone, wondering, what happens to a family when justice has been served but trust lies shattered on the ground? If you've ever had to choose between peace and truth, comment truth or peace below. Which did you choose?
5 days after the court hearing, a tentative knock came at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Derek standing alone, shoulders slumped, holding a small potted plant, peace lilies. Leonard had always brought me peace lilies when we'd argued. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Not yet. "Mama," he said, voice hoarse, "can we talk?" We sat on the front porch swing where I'd once rocked him as a colicky baby, the same swing where I'd comforted him through childhood disappointments, teenage heartbreaks, and adult setbacks. Now we were strangers with shared blood and wounded hearts. "I didn't know," he began, staring at his hands, "about the bank visits, about the lies." "But you signed the court papers," I said quietly. "You stood beside her. She told me you'd gotten confused about your medications, that you'd left the stove on overnight, that the doctor was concerned." His voice cracked. "I was scared of losing you, Mama. Scared you'd hurt yourself." "And you never thought to ask me?" To spend time with me, yourself, and see if I was actually declining? He flinched. I should have. There's no excuse. Silence stretched between us, filled with 45 years of history. She's moving out, he finally said. I told her I couldn't stay married to someone who would do that to my mother. The words should have brought satisfaction, but I felt only sadness. And the children? We're figuring it out. Malik knows something's wrong, but not the details. Tiana keeps asking to see you. I touched his hand briefly. They're always welcome here. Always. And me? He asked, finally meeting my eyes. In his face, I saw the little boy who'd once believed I could fix anything broken. Trust isn't restored in a single conversation, Derek. It's rebuilt brick by brick, day by day. He nodded, wiping away tears. I'll lay every brick myself, if that's what it takes. We didn't hug when he left. That would come later, but he'd taken the first step on a long road back to being mother and son again. The consequences for Simone came swiftly. Word travels fast in small communities, especially when that word involves attempted elder exploitation. Clients quietly pulled their real estate listings from her agency. The luxury car was sold. The designer clothes stopped appearing. 2 months later, I heard she'd moved to Atlanta to expand her business opportunities. Derek didn't offer details, and I didn't ask. Instead, I focused on healing what could be healed. I established firm boundaries. No one would manage my money but me and the financial advisor Henrietta recommended. I updated my will, creating a trust for my grandchildren that neither parent could access until the children reached 25. But questions lingered as summer turned to fall. Would Malik and Tiana understand when they were old enough to learn the full story? Would Derek truly change or simply become better at hiding parts of himself? And most troubling, how could I have lived alongside Simone for 20 years without seeing her true nature? My garden didn't provide answers, as I tended the autumn mums, but it gave me space to think. The earth doesn't rush its seasons, doesn't force flowers to bloom before their time. Maybe relationships healed the same way, with patience, care, and acceptance that some years bring more weeds than blossoms. What about your family garden? Have you ever had to prune a relationship that had grown toxic or nurture one back from the edge of death? Tell me in the comments, what helped your family heal after betrayal? 1 year has passed since that courthouse victory. My red brick house still stands sturdy on Maplewood Street, its foundation solid despite the storm that nearly washed it away. I still tend my garden, host my church's senior committee meetings, and keep my own financial records with meticulous care. Age has not diminished me. If anything, surviving Simone's betrayal has made me more vigilant, more vocal, more determined to live fully in these golden years. Derek and I have found a new relationship, not the blind trust of before, but something more honest, built on clearer seeing. He comes for Sunday dinner twice a month, sometimes with the children, sometimes alone. We talk about real things now. His struggles as a single father, my memories of Leonard, the lessons we've both learned about trust. I should have protected you, he said recently as we washed dishes side by side. And I should have been more honest about my concerns regarding Simone, I replied. We both chose peace over truth for too long. Malik is 17 now, applying to colleges, his eyes set on engineering. He's quieter since the divorce, more thoughtful. Sometimes he helps me with household repairs, and in those companionable silences, we rebuild our own connection. Tiana, at 13, has blossomed into a passionate advocate, presenting a school project on elder abuse that brought tears to my eyes when she showed me the video.
Inspired by my grandmother, she had written in the credits, who taught me that standing up for yourself is standing up for everyone. As for Simone, she remarried quickly in Atlanta. Another successful man, another fresh start. I pray for her occasionally, not out of forgiveness exactly, but recognition that wounded people wound others. Her own mother had abandoned her young. Perhaps the seeds of her betrayal were planted long before she met my son. The wisdom I've gathered in 73 years hasn't made me perfect or protected me from pain, but it taught me this. Age isn't a weakness to be exploited. It's a strength forged through surviving life's hardest blows. I've learned that family isn't just about blood or history. It's about who stands beside you when the storm comes. Sometimes those you expect to shelter you are the very ones who push you into the rain. I've learned that fighting back isn't just about winning. It's about showing others that dignity doesn't diminish with age. And perhaps most importantly, I've learned that silence in the face of wrongdoing protects no one, not the victim, not the perpetrator, not the bystanders who turn away. My story could have ended differently. Without Henrietta's legal knowledge, without the bank manager's integrity, without my own financial preparation, Simone might have succeeded. Thousands of elders face similar battles without such resources, their voices silenced, their autonomy stolen by those who claim to love them. If my story has touched something in you, if you recognize the warning signs in your own family or community, I ask you to subscribe to this channel. Join our community of witnesses and advocates. Together, we can ensure that aging comes with dignity, respect, and the sacred right to self-determination. Because the truth is simple. Gray hair doesn't mean gray matter has faded. Wrinkles mark journeys of strength, not pathways to dependence. And wisdom earned through decades deserves not just protection, but profound respect.
Before I leave you today, I want to speak directly to 3 groups of people who might be watching. First, to my fellow elders. Guard your independence fiercely. Keep copies of important documents with trusted friends outside your family. Establish relationships with professionals, doctors, bankers, attorneys, who know you when you're well and can advocate for you when challenges arise. Create a financial power of attorney only with careful consideration, and review it regularly. Remember that love doesn't demand control. It respects boundaries. Second, to the adult children of aging parents. Your concern is natural. Your desire to protect understandable. But protection that removes autonomy isn't protection. It's imprisonment. Ask yourself honestly, are your actions driven by your parents' needs or your own fears and desires? True respect means accepting that your parent has the right to make decisions you disagree with, take risks you find uncomfortable, and maintain privacy you might find inconvenient. Finally, to anyone who suspects elder abuse, speak up, report it, stand witness. Financial exploitation thrives in secrecy and shame. Your voice might be the only one an elder has when their own family has silenced them. My journey from betrayal to justice isn't unique. Right now, in homes across this country, elders face manipulation, gaslighting, and outright theft from those they should be able to trust most. The National Council on Aging estimates that 1 in 10 Americans aged 60 plus has experienced some form of elder abuse, with financial exploitation being the most common. I share my story not for sympathy, but solidarity, to remind you that age is not a disease, dependence is not inevitable, and standing up for yourself is never selfish. If this story resonated with you, if you've witnessed or experienced something similar, join our community by subscribing. Share your own story in the comments if you feel safe doing so. Every voice strengthens our collective power. Because here's what Simone never understood. She saw my age as weakness, but it was actually my greatest power. 73 years have taught me patience, perspective, and the quiet courage to face difficult truths. That same courage lives in you, whether you're 23 or 93. Honor it. Trust it. Use it to protect yourself and others. Thank you for walking this path with me today, for believing that every stage of life deserves dignity and respect, for recognizing that family should be our greatest protection, never our greatest threat. Remember, your voice matters. Your boundaries matter. Your autonomy matters, no matter your age. Lastly, download your ebook titled Suspense and Thriller Stories by clicking the link in the pinned comment.